The governor of West Virginia, Jim Justice, thought it'd be a good idea to join the chorus of Republican politicians who are pushing against trans girls' rights to compete on girls' sports teams. So he signed a bill into law that West Virginia lawmakers presented to him to do just that. Now, he didn't have very good reasons to do so, and Stephanie Ruhle of MSNBC made sure to ask him about it. But before we get to that, let me just get one aspect of this new law that Justice did sign. So, as I mentioned, Jim Justice Wednesday signed into law a measure that prohibits transgender girls and women in the state from competing on sports teams at, quote, any public secondary school or state institution of higher education. This law, which cleared the state's Republican-led legislature in recent weeks, states that such teams must be designated based on, quote, biological sex, thus prohibiting trans women and girls from participating on women's athletic teams where competitive skill or contact is involved. So we've seen a lot of these approaches and these thought processes for it. But let's see what Stephanie Ruhle, who apparently was very upset about this latest law that has been signed in West Virginia, she got a chance to confront the governor and really get his idea of why he did this.
Can you name one example of a transgender child trying to gain an unfair competitive advantage at a school there in West Virginia?
Well, Stephanie, I don't have that experience exactly to myself right now, but I will tell you this.
Not yourself, your state, sir. Can you give me one example of a transgender child trying to get an unfair advantage? Just one in your state. You signed a bill about it.
No, I can't really tell you one, but I can tell you this, Stephanie. I'm a coach, and I coach a girls' basketball team, and I can tell you that we all know. We all know what an absolute advantage boys would have playing against girls.
But sir, you have no examples of this happening. Why would you take your time to do this? Let's talk about other things that I can give you examples of in your state. According to US News and World Report, West Virginia ranks 45th in education, 47th in healthcare, 48th on the economy, and 50th in infrastructure. If you cannot name one single example for me of a child doing this, why would you make this a priority? I just named 4 things that would seem to me like a much bigger priority.
Well, Stephanie, I didn't make it a priority. It wasn't my bill.
You signed it.
Deflection, push it off to someone else. It wasn't me. I just signed the bill. I don't really know what's in it. Now, if you have no agenda to take care of these 4 things that Stephanie Ruhle pointed out are issues in West Virginia, then you might go to things that don't really make a difference, like this bill. Maybe something that will get people that are in your state to rally to your side over something that really doesn't affect literally anyone in the state. It goes on to the constant culture war that we see happening from the Republican Party because we know there's not much that they have there to offer to American people. All they have is the other folks, the others. You guys talked about gays, gods, and guns is the things they pushed. They're losing out on the gay part now, but they're pushing this next thing. Or maybe the trans folks, those trans folks, they're the scary ones. Remember, we all know gay folks. I have a gay family member, so that's starting to lighten up a little bit. We have to focus on the trans folks because I'm really afraid of them. So these are the type of things that they're pushing to get somewhere in the political realm rather than actually doing something for people, because all of their policies really don't.
Yeah, but it may work.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, it always has.
Here's why it may work. And I need people to understand, you have to step back and look at this thing in a much broader view. If you take the voter suppression bills that are being passed, Georgia, Florida, Texas, 350 bills nationwide, they need to shrink the electorate. What typically happens is you've got a Democrat who's in the White House. Typically, the party that wins, their folks don't turn out in the midterms. 2008, massive turnout for Obama. Folks didn't show up in 2010. What followed in 2010? Voter suppression bills in state legislatures. 16 state legislatures flipped. And then, of course, you had Shelby v. Holder that they began to sue. That was decided by the Supreme Court in 2013. It created the existing problem. They need to whip the white evangelical base up. Not only that, Ron Brownstein today was tweeting this, and he talked about the significant drop in non-college white voters. Why is that important? Because that's who the governor is targeting. That's who these bills are targeting. So what has to happen is, while people who disagree with them passing these bills, there must be a concerted effort among progressives or forces who are against this, these crazy right-wing folks, to begin to get our people to understand you can't wait on the 2022 elections come September 22. You got to start now. This is all a part of their strategy. And I told a group 2 months ago, I said, this is going to become the new thing because they got to get the white conservative evangelicals ginned up on something, and this is it.
Yeah, and so it's so transparent if you actually bother to listen to any progressive show, right? So you listen to the Roland show, our show, we tell many other wonderful progressive shows, and we tell you all the time, look, it's so obvious. Why are we talking about Dr. Seuss? Why are we talking about a made up story about how Biden's gonna ban burgers? Why are we talking about a made up story about how Kamala Harris is giving her book away to undocumented immigrants? Why are we talking about trans sports in high school? I mean, I can't think of a smaller issue if my life depended on it. And Stephanie Ruhle makes a great point about there might not be a single case in West Virginia, and they bother to pass a bill about it. Why? It's everything that happens for a reason. They need a distraction because they're so bad at their jobs. You saw those numbers, they're terrible on education and wages and you name it. They've crushed their own voters. And Roland talked about it earlier in the show. You go to red state after red state, it just miserable failures. Mississippi, Alabama, etc. Not the people, but their leadership. They keep electing Republicans and they wind up at number 50, number 49, number 48. Every year they're jockeying for position on who's worse, right? And so when you have such a miserable record of failure because you gave everything to the richest people in the state and you robbed the poor and the middle class to do it, then you got to try to distract them. Squirrel, trans people in the athletics, etc. And so, and guys, if you're a religious person, no matter where you are on the political spectrum, do you really think this is the #1 issue? And you know that it isn't. And you also know that they tried to sign gays, right? They did it earlier in 2004. George W. Bush ran on, gays shouldn't have the same rights as we do. They shouldn't be able to marry. They shouldn't be able to adopt, etc. They put those on the ballot in all those different states so that Bush could win the 2004 election, and it worked. It stopped working because everybody realized, it turns out I know someone who's gay. It turns out somebody in my family's gay, etc. Now they're like, we got to go smaller. Okay, eventually they'll be down to handicapped black trans people are the real problem in America.
My one last thought on that also is those 4 things, the things that all these states have issues with, would be solved with more progressive policies. That's why they don't do it, because they'd have to do something that helps American people, and that's nowhere near their agenda. It'd be them not living up to their campaign promises, because those things are fixed by progressive policies, and they don't have.
But here's what has to happen. This is real quick. You gotta have Democrats who are willing to take the fight to them. I said directly to President Barack Obama, stop going to the suburbs of Ohio and Virginia touting the Affordable Care Act. Go to the brokest, reddest, whitest, sickest county in Mississippi and Alabama and say, y'all are the brokest, reddest, whitest, sickest county in your entire state, and I passed the Affordable Care Act for you. I want President Biden, don't just go to rural Pennsylvania. No. I want President Biden to go talk to those white conservatives in Mississippi and go to Arkansas and go to Tennessee and look them in the eye and say, you're sick, you're dying early. You need health care, and your US senators are not supporting this, or they're not supporting Medicaid expansion. So you're gonna keep supporting them, or you're gonna support yourself? See, you gotta be willing to take the fight where the fight needs to be taken and not going to safe places. And that's what Democrats should be doing in Ohio. In all these places, in Wisconsin, go after Ron Johnson, go after the Ohio seat, go after that Pennsylvania seat, go after Marco Rubio in his face, go target Cubans and Venezuelans. But if you keep running away from the fight, you're not gonna win.
Thanks for watching the Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, Jayar. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.